afternoon, everyone. We would like to start the program. On behalf of the New Bedford Veterans Advisory Board, I want to welcome everybody down here to the Fort Rodman Military Museum and Veterans Memorial. We're here today to observe the 50th anniversary of the ending of hostilities of the Vietnam War. And I say war because that's what it was. When I was a kid growing up, when my brother went off in 1866 to 68 to Vietnam, it was called a conflict. You couldn't say war. It's just like you couldn't say war for Korea. It had to be a police action. Then that got switched over to conflict. I can remember when he came back, as well as all the other Vietnam veterans, that came home, not by a unit, not with a parade, singly, coming in by bus, coming home by airplane at the airports, not having anybody welcome them. New Bedford has always turned around to the Vietnam vets since the founding of the Chapter 499 to say, welcome home. And that you have always deserved that, and they turned off the everything.
I'll be right back in a minute. I can sneak through here somewhere.
I can talk a little bit louder if everybody can hear me.
There you go. There you go.
So as we begin today, instead of the posting of the colors, we'll do the opening with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll be followed by the singing of the National Anthem by Miss Emma Mello. So first, the Pledge of Allegiance, using... Right here. Mayor, could you lead us off?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fire o'er the ramparts we'd watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Emma. And now that I know that you can sing it very well, you'll probably be called upon many other services that we have. I'd like to bring forward Mr. Bill Nedgewitz, who's trying to come around the back.
Yes, I'll be there.
To give a welcome from the Fort Rodman Historical Association.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Foot Table Fort Rodman Military Museum and Veterans Memorial and the Historical Association are honored to assist the Vietnam Veterans of America's Chapter 495 recognizes the 50th anniversary of the end of hostilities of the Vietnam War. I hope everybody here understands the significance, looking around the room, I know you do, but I hope that the rest of the city, the rest of the people understand. A lot of you gave up a lot of times of your young life, and I'm happy that you all came home. I just don't want to take too much time because we got other people who want to speak, and I'm one of those people who can run off at the mouth. So I really do thank you all for showing up. There are refreshments, and again, we are actually honored to do this. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. How this came about for today, about a month ago, someone had walked behind the Vietnam Veterans Memorial down here at the Clark's Point and noticed that the VVA had put in a small stone to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the ending of hostilities of May 7th, 2025. The person did not understand the reasoning behind that stone being placed there and went on to post on social media and cause a little bit of a stir. With that, the Veterans Advisory Board, which I chair, reached out to the Vietnam veterans and said, listen, it's time that we get you guys back down here so that people understand why that monument is here in the city, the purpose of the monument, and the names that are listed on there. Behind me in the case, you'll see the photographs of all of the men who perished in Vietnam. That was put together by the VVA probably about 21 years ago. And when we first opened the museum, they had just had that tour around, brought it, came down to the museum, talked to us about it, and they didn't know what to do with the photographs. And we turned right around to them and said they belong here. We'll now have a Vietnam section in here, and that was the beginning of honoring all veterans of the greater New Bedford area in the museum. So when this came about, the city's Veterans Advisory Board, working with the VVA, working with the museum and the Fort Taber Historical Association, decided it's time we all work together hand in hand, working together with the city and getting this program here today. With that, I'd like to bring up Mr. John Ramirez, who is the current commander of the Vietnam Veterans Chapter 499, just to say a few words.
I want to welcome everybody on behalf of Chapter 499. It's been in existence for a long time, Vietnam veterans. So we never forget the Vietnam veterans, what they went through and what they dealt with and what they dealt with when they came back home. Because coming back home was probably worse than going to the war. I know coming back home for all the men and women who took off their uniforms, didn't want to wear them because of the hostile people that were out there and couldn't understand why we were over there in Vietnam. Coming back to, I know when I came back to Oakland Air Force Base, was kiss the ground and come back home to see what was going on with the protesters and some of the men and women and what they went through. And one thing I wanted to do was to thank a nurse. And
Kathy Splinter, I was hoping to be here today because she's the one I thanked because she was over there in July and what the young woman went through over there as nurses and that, it's just unbelievable. They were the last ones to see these guys when they left the field, if they were wounded, and we never knew if they made it back or not. So a lot of trauma for them, and some of them were married and had kids at home, so you can imagine what they dealt with and went through. It wasn't a picnic, it wasn't easy. I just felt coming back was worse than going over there for what you had to deal with. But we want to welcome everybody. I got a little shook up over it, but just want to welcome everybody for what they went through over there. And we will never, ever let another veteran be forgotten that served in the combat. During the Gulf Wars, Chris Gomes and some of the other ones, if you know Chris, had asked if they could march with us in the parade. And we said, of course, because no veteran will ever be left behind. Never. The VA system wasn't as great back then. It's a lot better what it was back then. Some of the stuff that went on in treatment for veterans is a lot better than it ever was. And their families and what they had to go through. So I don't want to take a lot of time. Just want to welcome you and be grateful. And for what you don't know is a lot of these Vietnam veterans that are still with us, what they're going through now with the chemicals and all the stuff they suffered with over there and will live with for what's left of their life. And so many of these veterans are gone because of the chemicals over there. Some never even lived a year after they came back, because it depends where you were at and what you suffered with. So moving right along,
We'll be bringing up Dan.
Dan?
Yep.
Yeah, all right,
Thank you, John.
yeah.
One of the things I have learned through my years of always serving veterans, whether it be on the Veterans Advisory Board or down here, is I always expect that a veteran, when he talks before a group of people that are truly appreciative of his service, they will always be emotional. And I fully understand that. I would like to bring up now Dan LeBlanc, who is the City of New Bedford's former Veterans Service Officer. He's also, I think, was Freetown, and a member of the Vietnam Veterans Chapter 499, to say a few words, particularly about the memorial.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bill. I bring my cheat sheet. Two things I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to be brief. First thing I'm going to talk about, I got a phone call from a gentleman who most everybody here should know because his picture is up there. Fred Farrington called me today and apologized for not being able to be here because he had some surgery yesterday. He was planning on coming. Fred was our keynote speaker when we dedicated the memorial that we have out by Clark's Cove. This photograph was taken by Donna Perry, if I'm not mistaken, and the gentlemen in that picture are all members of 499. That's the committee that put the memorial together, those 10 men, and 3 of those men are no longer with us. Starting from left to right is Red Perry, Rick Jansen, myself, Lou Lucia, John Spencer, Jimmy Popcorn, Bob Vicente, Rod, Lee Cunha, and Joe Perry. That picture was taken on March 12th of 2006. Those guys got together the end of 2005 to put this together. When you go out, if you go out to the memorial, you're going to see the date on that memorial, if I'm not mistaken, is September 17th of 2006. So within the 6 months, thanks to the city and the mayor of the city and the councilors who gave us that little plot of land to put the memorial out there, for me, a day like today is, it's conflicting to me. I like what John, it's an emotional time for a lot of us that served in country, and a lot of us that came back with injuries. March 29th is Welcome Home Vietnam War Veterans Day. That was set by Congress in 2017. A lot of us that are members of VVA served in Vietnam in the 60s. I served in 1966 in Vietnam, and a lot of guys served in 66 through 75. The conflict, like Bob mentioned, the stone we put out back in 2006, a lot of us didn't think we'd be around in 50 years because of a lot of health reasons. Well, we're here. We had actually talked about putting another stone in the middle behind the flagpole to dedicate 100 years, but we never got to that. And a lot of us went on to other things. But Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day is for those of us that are here today and survived the war. Later on today, we're going to read the names of those who didn't survive the war. Like Bob had mentioned, the 23 men behind me, a couple of which I joined the Marine Corps with, who weren't able to come home. I just want to say thanks to the Military Museum for what they do and what they've done here. When we first started, like Bob mentioned, the Vietnam section was in the far corner of this building. And this is the biggest little museum, I think, in the state, maybe in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I just want to do some brief introductions as to who we have here. Behind me, we have Mayor John Mitchell of the City of Bedford, Maria Giesta, Council of Ward 2, State Reps Mark Sylvia, Chris Hendricks, and Tony Cabral. All of the represent portions, all of New Bedford, and former Mayor Scott Lang, who's standing in the back. All of these individuals, including two of our newest reps, have always supported our efforts down here. And the two new reps have come in here for the first time and have been awed by what they see here. With that, we have our first speaker, guest speaker coming up. It will be Mayor John Mitchell with a resolution.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, let's adjust the mic a little bit. Oh boy, just like the music playing a second ago. I put it the right. Bill, where are you?
Right here. Hang on 1 second.
All right. I hope this isn't property of the city of New Bedford.
No. It's actually ours. There it is.
Wow. Perfect, okay. Well, so when I walked into this room, I was immediately struck by the size of the crowd today. Warm weather's finally setting in. It's a Saturday afternoon. People could be doing lots of other things, and yet a lot of people are here. So if you're watching it on cable TV, know that there was a huge turnout here today if you can't see it at all. And to my mind, it's really a reflection of a number of things. First off, as Bob alluded to, it's a reflection of how much our city reveres veterans generally and Vietnam veterans in particular. We live in a deeply patriotic place, and I'm proud to say. I think even more so, it reflects the love of a whole lot of family members who are here, and their gratitude for their loved ones' sacrifices, for their courage, for their dedication to country. And it also reflects just a whole lot of really good men and women who went over there and served in country some 50 years ago. What's remarkable is just the sheer distance of time, of course. It's a half century. To those who are over there, I'm sure it feels like yesterday. I'm sure those memories of their experience in the war, all the time leading up to the war, from either boot camp or basic training, as the case may be, all the way to deployment, to their experiences over there. And then the aftermath feels like it was just something that just happened, and yet 50 years have passed. A lot has happened, and a lot can be said. I think just it's enough for me to say on this occasion that to take in the enormity of the sacrifice, one would do well to look at the exhibit over my left shoulder and look at the faces of the men from Greater New Bedford who didn't come back. All of them were signed up. All of them signed up because they wanted to do right by their country. Many of them had served because they felt that they wanted to do their part as their fathers or older brothers had done, either in the Second World War or in Korea. And when the nation called during the Vietnam conflict, they stepped forward, all of them, and they didn't come back. So I would just invite everybody, including folks who are watching on TV, to spend some time here and in a moment of quiet reflection. What I will say is, as somebody who was born during the war, really doesn't have just sort of the vaguest memories of the events of the day. When you're a little kid, you remember the impressions, right? And it was, as a little kid, certainly with the TV on or the radio on in the background, you're left with impressions of a time in America in which there was a great deal of consternation and a great deal of conflict between and across families, between families, people not all agreeing. And in the 50 years since, and I think some of you have heard me offer up this observation before, but I think history has borne this out, that there has been, very fortunately, an enormous, a profound reconsideration of the Vietnam War. As Dan alluded to, they weren't warmly embraced. Many of you men were not warmly embraced when you returned back to the U.S. And for someone who grew up in another generation, it's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around that. And that's actually a good thing, because the Vietnam veterans made their point. They made their point about their country and about the nobility of service, the importance of sacrificing for one's country, and impressed upon people that what they did was worthy of everyone's admiration. And that has been, frankly, the legacy. The public opinion polls these days, and they have been for some time, pretty consistently show that the most admired professionals in America are military professionals, those who serve. They beat everybody hands down. I used to be a lawyer. They certainly beat lawyers in those public opinion polls. But there's a reason for that, and there's a reason why, as you mentioned, John, the VA is a very different place. It's because everybody thought that it had to be better, because everybody understood that veterans had to be treated better because what they did was important. And so it is today, as we stand here some 50 years later, in an America whose overriding sentiment about the Vietnam War these days isn't, what a shame, or what, we shouldn't be there, or we shouldn't have done this or that. It is profoundly, for the men and the women who serve there, one of admiration. And that's what I would say to all of you. I hope it's easy for me to say as somebody who didn't experience what you experienced, but what I would hope that maybe in time, and maybe along with your families, what you receive is that the message that your legacy was profoundly productive, profoundly, and one that set a great example for future generations, as it has to, because in the republic that we all cherish, we can only keep it if people are willing to protect it and step and make sacrifices. And so for us today, what I have to say to the Vietnam veterans here is we really appreciate you. I have a proclamation which I won't read on this occasion, but know that it's here. But more than anything else, we just really want you to know just how grateful we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Mitchell. I'd like to bring forward Councilor Maria Giesta from Ward 2 to give brief comments from the City Council.
Thank you. On behalf of myself and the New Bedford City Council, welcome home. I do remember the war. I was born in 1962, and my family immigrated to the United States in 1966. And I remember watching, probably in the early to mid 70s, Howard Cosell and Harry Reasoner and other reporters reporting on the news. And it clearly had, of course, an effect on me and my family, because we do appreciate everything you have done and continue to do for our community. As a matter of fact, my youngest brother served on the USS Badger 1071, FF 1071 in Pearl Harbor. And so for my family, it's very personal. So thank you again, and welcome home.
All right, State Representative Antonio Cabral will represent the state delegation that's here to say a few words.
Good afternoon. On behalf of my colleagues, Mark Sylvia, the newbies, the newbies, right?
No, I'm not that new.
Chris Hendricks, and those who are not able to be here, they had the previous commitments. And on behalf especially of those that I have the honor and the privilege to represent at the State House, many of you here live in my district. So I give a big thank you on behalf of myself and those that I represent for your service, for your commitment to this community and to your community that you might live in. If it's not in the city, some of you are from the surrounding community, the greater New Bedford area. The Vietnam vet, for me, Vietnam veterans are very special people. When you got back, you were not treated right. We did not honor you. But Chapter 499, in the work that you have done throughout the years, you have changed that dynamic. Your work that you have done in New Bedford and greater New Bedford area to make sure that every veteran who comes home will never be treated the way that some of you were treated. So for all that work, John, and everybody who belongs to 499, we're always very proud to see you guys at the parades too. And it's great to see all of you active and involved. And because it is because of you that really we think, and the country thinks, very differently of how we should be treating veterans when they come home, including the VA, how the VA handles the situations and handles the services to veterans today. A lot of it has to do because of your activism, your involvement, making sure that no other veteran will ever be treated the way you were. But being from New Bedford allowed me to also thank the immigrant families of this city that also had given up their sons and their daughters to serve this country. The first American soldier to die in Vietnam from the city of New Bedford was an immigrant from the Azores who immigrated with his family, lived on River Street, very close to or by Gouart Square. And Gouart Square, as you may know, is also named for the first American soldier from New Bedford that died in the First World War. He lived on River Street and died in Vietnam defending our values, our freedoms, at the age of 20 years old. He had dreams too, right? And his family had dreams for him. But he answered the call, just like all of you did. And he served. And when he died in Vietnam, he was not a US citizen. He was a green card holder. Like those who first immigrate here, usually that's their status. And there are many others. I know of, he actually passed away recently. His last name was Cabral, actually, not related to me. Adelino Cabral, who also served. And many others. So I think it shows that New Bedford is a very special place. That we all work together, and when it comes the need, and then when we are called to serve our community and our country, we are there, regardless of our citizenship status. So there's no place like New Bedford to honor all of you, including immigrants in this community. So to all of you, a big thank you, and you can count on us. You can count on this state delegation in the city to provide whatever you might need. Massachusetts is a proud place. We treat, just like the city of New Bedford, we treat veterans very specially. We have the best services for veterans in the country. Just recently we passed some legislation called the HEROES Act that added additional services to all of you and to your families. Hopefully in the future, and we've been talking about this, Chris and Mark and the others, hopefully we can convince the state to build a third soldiers' home in this area. It's under conversations now with the Secretary of the Veteran Services. So we need your support on that too. We need your advocacy, your involvement, because veterans in this area, be from the greater New Bedford area, be from the Cape or the islands, don't have that kind of service. We can't go to Holyoke, right? Or Chelsea. And imagine if one needs that kind of service in Holyoke and Chelsea, how do we get families to go there and visit those who are there? So I think we deserve it. You deserve it. And every veteran family deserves that services. So again, on behalf of the city and those who live here, I think they may have said that already, especially those who live in my district and the district of all my colleagues, we have your back. And we'll continue working on your behalf to make sure that you have every service that you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cabral. Our main speaker today, which I kind of conned him into being the main speaker. I first met 21 years ago with the other Vietnam veterans when they came in with the photographs. And I haven't seen him in a couple of years, and I wanted to have him get down here because he deserves to see how this memorial has evolved over time. And he, along with the other members of the VVA, part of it. The reason why we have such tremendous response. So I'd like to bring up right now to say some words as our speaker, Mr. Norman Red Perry, who is the past commander of the VVA, Chapter 499.
I seeing correctly? Wow. All right. I'd like to thank all of you for coming, being here today. I'm very thankful to be given the opportunity to speak today. For those who don't know me, I am Red Perry. Norman Perry, but not too many people know me by that name. And it has meant so much for me to be able to embrace my Vietnam brothers and sisters. The sacrifice and dedication is a connection that is something only we understand. Welcome home again. Before, during, and after Vietnam, we were and continue to be great men and women. There are those who did amazing things before going to Vietnam. For example, Charles Gaudreau, before going to Vietnam, saved a boy's life right down the street and never gave it any thought. And then there are those who gave their own lives to save others, such as Tiago Reese, who paid the ultimate sacrifice, never put his own life before his fellow brother, along with those who were wounded while saving others, just like Daniel Blake, who saved a fellow New Bedfordite, if that's how you say it, I'm not sure. All right. And then we have those like Paul Kellish, who could see his brothers and sisters needed a place to call home after Vietnam. They were pulling veterans out of the tractor trailers where they were living in down by the docks, and created, given a handout to Vietnam veterans, not a handout. This was the beginning of the Veterans Transition House. I know there are so many wonderful deeds that have been done because we are great men and women. VVA motto is, never again will one generation of veterans abandon another. In November of 1984, Ron Pina and myself wanted to form a group to share more with our brothers and sisters. This is when VPA Chapter 499 was started. I have to say that being the president of the chapter was such an honor. It meant so much to be able to have a place where we could come together, be there for each other, while helping our community at the same time. For example, we had a food pantry that was run out of a member's home. The food was collected by Bishop Stan Bingo. They offered players an extra card if they brought food for the pantry. Again, community coming together to help those less fortunate. The rewards were great and gave much satisfaction when we marched in the local parades. Seeing the streets lined with people from Butwood Park to downtown cheering and honoring us.
Okay, but
That was my welcome home. There are so many wonderful memories that have touched my heart. The honor of gathering the photos of our Vietnam veterans from New Bedford and the surrounding towns that were KIA. The goal of this project was to be able to put a face to the name to be remembered for them and for those who knew and loved them. It was out of respect to them to show they are much more than just a name. This would not have been possible without the help of Mr. Hank Seaman, a man who was always there for us. Rest in peace, Hank. There were monuments all over the city for veterans. However, there wasn't one for Vietnam veterans to be able to have their friends and family to come,
sit, and reflect. This was a dream come true. Again, this would not have happened without the help of so many people. We formed a committee whose members were, I'm going to sound repetitive, but I'll just say what I have. Joe Perry, Lee Cunha, Dan LeBlanc, Bruce Wilbur, Conrad Dupree, Bob Vicente, Ruby Lucia, Jim Freitas, also known as Popcorn, John Spencer, Ronnie Quinn, Eric James, John Ramirez, Rick Jansen, and myself. The first gift was from the city of New Bedford for giving us this beautiful land just up the road there. The next gift was from the club, I hope I'm saying it right, Madeirans SS Sacramento Incorporated, who also sponsors the Feast of the Blessed Sacrament, who held the biggest fundraiser ever known to man. It was huge. Believe me. Another big part of our fundraising was from Sue LeBlanc, who made the shirts that we sold with the monument design on them. Thank you, Sue. The end is near. There were so many generous gifts given to us for this monument. Thank you to all who made this dream come true. As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War, I want to say, there really isn't an end, is there? In closing, I want to thank my brothers and sisters for being such a big part of my life. I am grateful. Welcome home, a kid.
Just a couple of things to add. As I said, 21 years ago, they came in and began the process of helping us make this into a a Veterans Memorial for all the area veterans. When they first brought the photographs in, we did not have any items other than the photographs. And since that time, family members and veterans themselves have been bringing their material into us, whether it be from the American Revolution, but predominantly into the Vietnam era up to Iraqi freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom of Afghanistan. But with the Vietnam veterans, they began to bring their items into us. They began to teach generations that came after. What was Vietnam? How many kids that we have had come through here look at the name up there and wonder, what was that all about? What was career all about? That's why this exists. And approximately 117,000 people in the last 21 years have come through here and have seen and learned what was Vietnam, who are the Vietnam veterans. As Representative Cabral was mentioning, one of the Vietnam veterans that he likes to honor, it's Corporal Tiago Reese, United States Marine Corps, who sacrificed his life to protect the rest of the men in his squad. His brother, when he learned of our museum, brought down a few items and then later came in with all of his items to place on display so that the rest of the world will know his brother existed, that he was a Vietnam veteran, and that he was a hero who received a Navy Cross posthumously. That's why we exist. We exist to be able to turn around and to honor those veterans, past and present, those that we've been able to talk to over the years who are now gone. And we'll now switch over to what I will call our honors program. And I would like to call up Eric James for the reading of the Vietnam Veterans Prayer.
Thank you all for coming, people. This is great. Red, thank you, man. Ready to come back there? Love you. Okay, and cover, please. Stand in the cover. Thank you. Each year, America's veterans gather on special days to remember with solemn ceremony the friends and companions that were made during our time serving in the armed forces. We assemble to renew friendships, tell stories, laugh, and sometimes cry, and speak about the names etched on the black polished marble wall. We remember their name, for God has given us the memory, so that we can keep alive in our hearts our fellow veterans. We went to Vietnam as individuals, but returned as brothers. In the rustling of the leaves in the cool autumn air, we remember them. In the blowing wind and the cold winter nights, we remember them. In the buds of the flowers and the sweet smell of spring, we remember them. In the blue of the skies and the warmth of the summer, we remember them. So long as we live, they shall live, for they are part of us. And when we answer that final roll call, we know their names. We will be there to greet us. They will be there to greet us with the words of friendship, love, and peace, and last. Welcome home. Thank you.
We'll now have the reading of the names of the fallen from Vietnam, beginning with Mr. John Ramirez.
The names we're going to be reading are just Bristol County veterans. 2 were killed in Acushnet, 1 in Berkeley, 6 in Dartmouth, 22 in Fall River, 26 in New Bedford, 2 in Rainham, and 12 in Taunton. And we're going to be reading their names.
Aníbal S. Cabral, Jr., U.S. Marine Corps, New Bedford. Andre R. Latessa, U.S. Marine Corps, Westport. Cleveland F. Brigham, U.S. Army, South Dartmouth. Charles A. Gaudreau, U.S. Army, New Bedford. Caesar A. Pinto, U.S. Army, New Bedford.
Donald Damaris, U.S. Army, Fairhaven. David A. Downs, U.S. Army, Fairhaven. Edward J. Almeida, U.S. Army, New Bedford. Gary M. Cohen, U.S. Army, Dartmouth. Henry A. Chevalier, U.S. Army, Fairhaven.
John J. Conway, U.S. Marine Corps, New Bedford. James Farrow, U.S. Marine Corps, Acushnet. John P. Quarren, U.S. Air Force, Acushnet. James C. Miato, Jr., U.S. Marine Corps, New Bedford. James K. O'Leary, U.S. Marine Corps, New Bedford.
James C. Offley, U.S. Marine Corps, New Bedford. Joseph R. Paulette, U.S. Army, New Bedford. Jeffrey A. Pinheiro, U.S. Army, South Dartmouth. John W. Rohr, U.S. Army, New Bedford. John Vieira, U.S. Army, New Bedford.
Kenneth A. Baker, United States Marine Corps, New Bedford. Kenneth E. Beauregard, United States Marine Corps, New Bedford. Kenneth B. Hardeman, United States Marine Corps, New Bedford. Leonard Picanso, Jr., United States Marine Corps, Acushnet. Luis Pina, Jr., United States Marine Corps, New Bedford.
Michael B. Baptiste, U.S. Marine Corps, New Bedford. Michael L. St. Pierre, U.S. Marine Corps, New Bedford. Manuel A. Tavares, U.S. Army, New Bedford. Normand L. Bolio, U.S. Marine Corps, New Bedford. Normand E. Fontaine, U.S. Army, Westport.
Paul E. Hassey, U.S. Marine Corps, New Bedford. Paul J. Landry, U.S. Army, New Bedford. Paul I. Rodriguez, U.S. Army, New Bedford. Peter W. Roy, U.S. Marine Corps, Fairhaven. Russell V. Almeida, U.S. Marine Corps, South Dartmouth.
Richard J. Daly, U.S. Army, New Bedford. Robert A. Desrochers, U.S. Army, Dartmouth. Robert R. Gonville, U.S. Marine Corps, New Bedford. Tiago Reese, United States Marine Corps, New Bedford. William C. Medeiros, United States Marine Corps, New Bedford.
Wayne Mullen, U.S. Navy, New Bedford. Wayne J. Sylvia, U.S. Marine Corps, North Dartmouth. And Willie J. Wright, U.S. Army, New Bedford.
I would like to read this. It's Middleborough. I know it's Plymouth County, but most of these people, the names I read were my classmates. Corporal David Leslie Bellarive, U.S. Army. PFC William Hitchcock, U.S. Army. Sergeant William Mark Smith, U.S. Army. Wayne Maurice Karen, U.S. Navy, who received the Medal of Honor. Captain Herbert Bradford Luheed, U.S. Army. Robert Francis Towns, Jr., U.S. Army. PFC Joe Brodeur, U.S. Army. Lance Corporal William John Morrison, U.S. Marines. And First Lieutenant Fred G. Washburn, U.S. Army.
At this time, we call for all the members of the VVA Chapter 499 to gather at the front door. They will now be walking over to the memorial to place the wreath and give the final salute over to there. At the conclusion at the memorial, you may come back, and we have refreshments here in the museum.
I want to set you up for success here, brother.
Uncover it.
Almighty God, creator, sustainer of all life, who has received into eternal care the gifts of lives we honor today. We who are veterans of the Vietnam War often think of our brothers and sisters whose names are engraved in this black granite wall and on our nation's capital. And we honor with respect and thanks the great sacrifices made by those who were engaged in other wars, conflicts, and missions while serving our nation and its people. We miss them. We will never forget them. We pray for their families and friends and those who are left with their loss. And we ask that they may be comforted by the knowledge of our support and our tears. We pledge to them, through you, their sacrifice will be remembered, and honor them. We will work diligently for peace so that our children may know a world without war. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, John. We just want to also thank on behalf of the Vietnam Veterans of America, the museum for all they did for this anniversary, and Red Perry being back here, and so many years of things going on in the memorial. Watch it, the seagulls.
All because of you, brother.
Me too.
That's right.
Dan, you want to say something?
Yeah, a lot of us have been through a lot, and it's been a long time. 19 years, I think I was right about September. Yeah, September 17, 2006. We did all this with the city's help in a very, very short period of time. What I didn't say was those 10 guys on that picture had everything to do with this. Everything. There's a lot of symbolism with this memorial. There's the names on the memorial. We debated what to do with the names. We wanted to make sure that the 23 men were remembered on this memorial. Different guys were involved in different decisions. The VVA in stars, and the other stars you see represents the 23 guys who were killed in Vietnam. There are 23 stars here. We've got the peace symbol. We got the yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of death on the back side of that stone. There's other things on the side of the stone. All those guys came together to make the decision. There was no arguments. We all said what we wanted to say, and it got done.
We all work together.
You know, we all worked together. And
One thing about the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 499, there's never no arguments. We all get along. That's different.
Especially it carries a big gun.
And we also got a lot of help. We're there, Scotty Lane, too.
Red, you want to say?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to make it official, but for me,
No politics.
I think we should have our yearly, we recognize it Vietnam Veterans Day as March 29th and have the ceremony down here.
Exactly.
If it's rain, we're going in the museum, you know, but work on it in the coming months for next year. That way it's here, this is where it belongs, as far as I'm concerned.
Is that a motion you're making?
Yeah, I make a
I
motion.
second that.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Come on, I can't hear you.
Aye.
That's better.